There's also some discussion. Gretchen's making a note, and this might be related to the earwig issue. She likes this new interest in encouraging insects with the leave the leaves outside, um, and just saying that glad that you do such a good job of continually recommending not to use so much insecticide. Our resident beekeeper here, Michelle, says that yeah, that leave the leaves is actually better than no mow May. So we need a new campaign for that one.
Well, that's good. And boy, I left a lot of leaves this year.
Yeah,
I left them on the lawn. I need something to do in the wintertime, and I'll be bringing them across. But I missed all the leaves. We were down in South Carolina.
and they came
The
back.
wind came through, and the neighbors took we came back and they were gone. They'd already shipped them away. So I left all our leaves, and I'll get them out a little at a time.
Um, oh, one other suggestion I think is really good in the chat that Gina is saying. Um, Good time of year to go to estate sales and get great deals on garden tools. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to actually hold the tool and see whether it feels good in your hand or not. I dislike buying tools by mail. I like to go and try them out. And it is nice if you can carry on a gardener's work, even if they're gone, moved away or passed away. Their spirit somewhere is saying, good, there's a gardener using my
Right,
fine
tool.
tools. This is from 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, but it is applicable to so many things that people have asked us about over the time that we've been doing this, about correcting roots. I want to make sure that you understand, as Sue, who called us about this, now understands. If we correct roots, we shouldn't really say that we're saving a tree. We're buying it time. But if the roots weren't right to begin with, there's probably going to be a problem later on, or can often be. So when we make something or plant something, we try to look forward to maintaining it over time and watching it over time. So the reason that we're talking about this now is because of this tree. This is a Coosa dogwood in front of Sue's house. It's been 3 years. Yeah, because COVID was still on. She called and said, could you look at my Coosa because it's not growing right. It doesn't look right, and the leaves didn't fall off of it. And we stopped by to look at it. Yes, it's leader. You're probably gonna have to do the pointing today, Steve. It keeps trying to develop a new leader, and then it's dying back, and the rest of the tree doesn't grow up. We took a look at it, and it is a living process to drop your leaves. So something had killed the leaves before they dropped. Yeah. And we looked at the base of the tree, and it's suckering badly. She's been cutting suckers off of it and going straight into the ground. So we recommended that after I dug down to see how far down. I said, well, I've got the beginnings of the flare here, so it needs to go down about 3 inches, pull the soil away, keep the suckers off of there. But the tree was too big for her to take out of the ground, and certainly a bigger project we were going to take on. But chances are good that those roots that are going more down than out are wrapped together in a pot shape down there.
Will be twisted.
So I think we cut a couple of them, but let the rest go. And this year she said it's still not really doing well. When I got there to look at it, there was compost piled around them. I said, well, take that away. Don't start covering that up. It's not suckering as badly at the base, but it's still, you don't want it to do that. So what's happened is the lateral branches have taken off now. You can see it spreading its arms out to the side, but the leader has died back and it's still not reestablished itself. You can see it there. I kept trying to find a place where you could actually look through and see it. The leaves were falling off by themselves this year. They were turning color as they should, falling off, and that's good. But it's lost the initial leader entirely. I said, it might be, Sue, it might be that this tree is always going to be a misshapen tree. It won't have that leader anymore. And you can tell by how much it's suckering from the side branches that it wants to fill in its center. But those suckers that are there are also telling you that there's some problem with starch moving through the tree. And getting down to the roots, the starch is literally backing up in the system, And where the starch backs up and you get a starch-rich place underneath the bark, it fuels a sucker growth. There's also some crossing branches that need to come out, and that whole center part, you have to do the pointing. There you go. That whole center part there is right there. This part is going to have to come out. But you got it. If you want to save a tree, then you have to keep at it.
Yeah.
I suggested that you might want to do what we did at the Waterford Library, which is there's a tree there that they built a planter around and planted it deep. Plus, it's out in a place that's not great and it's never doing well. So we planted a little tree. 5 years ago, we planted a tree. It was about 18 inches tall, mostly one branch with some small side branches. And this year we decided you are now big enough, little tree. It's the greenery here from last year. And this year that tree was big enough. So we just cut out the original tree. And now we have a tree that we know has a good root system and can take off from there. I said, you might want to do that. You just buy a little tiny one for $20 from a mail order nursery and get it started in the ground. Any questions about that? Oh, any gardening book recommendations?
Yeah.
There are so many gardening books and so many good books. I don't think I've gotten very many new ones. I've been into the science of plants and biology lately.
I have a little bit of a recommendation there from my friend and I who were poking around and Christmas shopping, and there was a really very sweet, redone, pretty cover edition of The Secret Garden, and both of us were talking about how much we loved that book when we were kids, and neither one of us has read it in a long, long time. And I wonder about actually revisiting some classics, especially having probably read The Secret Garden before most of us were actually gardeners, and how it might feel to read that again. So just a little nostalgic throwback.
I should say that I've got on my list for Christmas to buy that book about the root systems that they've studied in Europe.
The German book.
Which I wasn't going to buy because I said, well, I want to see the illustrations. I'll be able to tell what plants they are, but I'd have to have somebody translate the book. And now that I know that I can just hover over it with my phone and the phone will translate it for me, I'm going to get it. But that's a really expensive book, very expensive book. There are some that I can recommend that are very hard to get a hold of because people don't let them go. Perennials in their garden habitats. If you can find that for somebody, it's a Timber Press issued it originally, and Stahl, I think, Friedrich Stahl is the author. But Perennials in Their Garden Habitats. It is such a ingenious book that each chapter is a different situation, a different site, dry or rocky or wet or shady and in that section, there are plants listed that grow there. And you can also look those plants up in the index and find out what other positions they occur in, so that you can say, well, in this area, my coral bells are growing well. Let me see what else grows well with coral bells. Or you can say, here's my situation and look it up. It's a great book. Friedrich Stahl, with an H, Stahl. Garden habitat.
Gretchen is noting too, Durr's Shrubs and Trees by Used, but it's a great one for people to have. If you haven't read, or if someone in your life hasn't read, Robin Wall Kimmerer's Braiding Sweetgrass, that's the one. That's the one.
And I absolutely loved the Light Eaters. I also liked the Tree Thieves. Was that what the name of that book was? I gave that away to someone now already too. It was horrifying, but what happens to trees all over the world being taken down. Okay, back to the insects for a minute. Inadvertently, I appear to have done a very good thing. I was doing the dishes one day, and on the kitchen windowsill, a ladybug was crawling by. I said, oh, you must have. I said, you don't belong in here for the wintertime. It's too dry in here. I set her back in a crevice of the window, because a lot of ladybugs get themselves into crevices and spend the winter in a cold crevice. And I didn't think much about it until about 4 days later. I saw her again. All ladybugs are hurting me. I saw the ladybug again crawling very slowly along the counter. I said, "Oh, no, you're drying right out."
Mm.
So I picked her up and I put her into the only plant that I have that I've shown you before. I was showing you this plant. It's a Streptocarpus. I think it's probably Streptocarpella, a hybrid that we got for our granddaughter, and we kept it outside in the summer. And I showed it to you recently to say that I brought it in, but I'm not giving it to her, back to her because I have to clean it up first. Um, it has webbing and has indication that there's spider mites on the leaves. So I said, first I have to clean it up. And I didn't get around to doing that. I didn't get around to depotting it and swishing it in soapy water and then rinsing it off. I just dropped the ladybug into there. And here it is now. A week later, look at the comparison of the color of the leaves, and I find no webbing anywhere on it.
Nope.
I think the ladybug is in there. They do eat mites, they do eat scale, and one ladybug can eat 30 a day. So I think maybe she's cleaned up the Streptocarpus. I also gave it a little bit of fertilizer because it obviously in regrowing from having been eaten. If you look at the new growth, see the new growth in the center is coming in fully green as opposed to chlorotic like the stuff that grew outside. Some animal ate it down to the ground and it regrew just on that ridiculously infertile bark mix that's in there.
It's amazing.
Anyway, one ladybug. She's in there someplace. You wish spiders would
Quick
do that kind of stuff.
quick
Sorry.
follow-up. Jean was saying that the book about trees, the German book about trees, Stahl, and what was the title?
The 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 book about tree and shrub roots is in German, and it's Wurzel Atlas de Tropischer. I can't think what the word is for forests and meadows, but it's the atlas of roots for Europe, trees and shrubs. And since it hasn't been translated yet, I don't think that there's a translation that I would have to have someone who knows German, or I'd have to have the book to hover over it. But the first word is definitely Wurzel Atlas, Wurzelatlas, all one word. The other book is Perennials and Their Garden Habitats. Perennials and Their Garden Habitats. It's another fall picture I just couldn't part with. It's so pretty.
Love those.
Martha said it's going to be 28 in South Carolina. Overnight again. Yeah, yep. And then we turned our attention indoors. So Anne sent a picture of a couple of her favorite plants and said, can I do this? This is her fiddle leaf fig. And it's getting too tall after 3 years. And yes, they do. They get to be big trees. We have a picture of one later that you might be astounded at how big a tree they can get pretty quickly. Yes, you can cut it back. Will it bush out? Will it become bushy? Probably not. The whole ficus group, the whole fig clan is pretty, they're alternate leaf on one side, then a leaf grows on the other side. They got a pretty strong dominance. And see how this is a Ficus elastica, a rubber plant cousin. But see how there is just one growing point at the tip. And if you look at the other one growing point. If you cut it back to above a leaf, you'll get another growing point, but probably not more growing points from further down, not unless you cut it back repeatedly. So I usually cut them back further than I want them to, shorter than I want them to ultimately be. And then as they're growing, cut them again in order to get multiple branches going. But probably it won't bush out. It's just not what figs do. They want to go up as fast as they can go up. She also asked about her blue star fern, which is a very cool plant. I've never grown blue star fern. I've admired it in a number of conservatories. It's so big. I mean, they just take up so much room. And she's wondering about maybe repotting it. They can stay quite a long time in a crowded pot, but yeah, the blue leaves are very cool, very pretty. It gets the rhizomes. These are the fern rhizomes crawling back and forth across the top of the pot. And you pretty much have to cut it apart. It's a big job to do that, and this wouldn't be a good time to do it because the plant is not going to be growing very actively in the wintertime to make up for what you break and remove in making the soil loose enough to take it apart. But yes, you probably do want to repot that sometime soon, but you don't have to. I found, well, I hadn't grown it myself, so I was looking for what I had. I didn't find much in my own books here, but there is a Houseplants UK houseplants. Of course, those British, they know everything. Telling us, don't worry about those. And there's a step-by-step repotting. So if you looked up UK houseplants, what's it, phlebium, or Blue Star fern, there is a whole step-by-step process that they spell out for you. So somebody who's done it can tell you what they do.
Ah,
It's kind of like me. I had to divide Pam's clivia. So I hadn't divided a clivia before. I said, I'd just be talking out of school if I said, here's how you do it. But yeah, they are running back and forth. You could just start a new one and not go through all the process of dividing the old one. If you can find where that runner reaches the base of one of the stems and you get a stem and a runner, you'd get a little one to start with, or a new one to start with, just a little one. But you know how fast it grows, you've watched it do that. And with that, let's see, is it time? Yes, we have someone joining us here. We're watching for her now, I think. To talk
We
about.
are watching for her. I don't think.
I
If not, are you hiding?
I
No.
did tell her 9:10 because I figured she didn't really need to be here while we introduce her. And she said, I'll be there at 9, but we'll see. You can send questions in all winter long, anytime, email or text, or
Yep.
our free for all Fridays will start after our January webinar, January 10th. So that's all that's going on in our garden in our house today. And we'll move on to the main topic, which is indoor gardens, and in particular, the new age of indoor gardens. And by that, we mean that we used to, Steve and I, have a lot of plants. And so we would write about plants. This is from one of our articles on the website about dealing with scale on our bay tree. Because of a change in the situation and the environment that we have in our new house, it's not really conducive for growing plants well. Not the kind of plants that we like growing, like bay. Oh, we loved our rosemary. We loved our jade. I am particularly fond of succulents, and they all need a lot. They need the big, sunny, unimpinged front window that we had to put things into. And we don't have anything like that now. And so we don't have a lot of this thing that we can like tell people, yes, it will grow back. That's what you do with it. But we have been reading a lot about what's going on with houseplants in the general world. And so bringing in the rosemary one year. And it's kind of amazing how many people are, that's about what happens to plants now.
Yeah.
That's our pineapple upside down. What's
And that's my dog that's the culprit.
Well, I think she stood on it to get just a little bit higher, and flipped it over. Sonia is more into the plants. These are her one year. I think this was 3 years ago. Sonia, you were moving plants out in spring when we were there. And there are a number of younger people getting very hooked on gardening indoors. Maybe some of it had to do with COVID, but the curve and increased interest started before 2019. There were already articles being written saying that younger people in their 20s and 30s were acquiring whole collections of plants and posting things on their social media about what plants they had and where they found them and what they were doing with them. So we were kind of interested in whether that's generating new garden interest inside. We put together some notes for you on 100, something over 100 plants that we think are interesting to grow. There's certainly more. I know Sooner finished the list and said, that's it. I'm not putting any more plants on here. I forgot about Crotons. And I forgot about Ziji plant. I didn't put them in there. But this list has a compilation from the different books that we have in our experience. For instance, if one authority said that the plant grew best, the African violets grew best at 61 to 71, and somebody else said that they grow best at 58. We kind of worked our way through those things and came up
Yes.
with our best estimate and our best notes. So those are up there for you. And if you go there to our website to download the chart, which I think is about 9 pages, it's there in 3 forms. This particular one that you're looking at on the screen is in alphabetical order by common name. The same chart I put up sorted alphabetically by scientific name because I like working it that way. And I put the same chart up sorted by difficulty. So all the easy plants are together, all the average plants, all the difficult plants are together. And you can choose which one you want to look up. I had planned to have pictures in this, links that you could click and come up with a picture. And at the very end of the process, after figuring all this out and how to do it, for whatever reason, when I try to change it from the Excel program that I did to PDF, the links don't come across. And I know I've done PDFs before that have links in them, so I have to work that out. I might but anyway, I had to rethink that whole thing, and our pictures are here. Oh, I guess I had another one that I could explain to people how it worked.
Also, just letting you know that our guest has arrived.
Oh, I see Antoinette with a purple A. Hi, Antoinette. We're at a point where there have been so many people tending indoor gardens, never this many people. And although this is a nursery near us, this is what some of the pictures that we've seen in magazines and nurspapers about following this trend of buying more plants. This is what people's houses are beginning to look like. And we can understand that. We had about 40 plants in our living room
We
too.
sure did.
And it is a wonderful thing, and it does feel good to have it. But of course, as soon as you find out that people are buying a lot of plants, more and more places start stocking plants. This is at our local grocery department store. Steve didn't even notice that these were here.
Yep.
And it isn't just the standard things. There's a ponytail palm there. And some other things that are rather interesting to look at. And it's a pretty big department when it comes down to it. There's a contractor maintaining it with the usual pothos and peperomias and Dracaena corn plants and mother-in-law's tongue. And but that ups the ante for the actual nurseries, and they are carrying more things too. Okay, they're going to sell flowering plants at the grocery store. Well, we're going to grow more kalanchoes and more streptocarpus and more of the plants that can give flower to people's houses. So that means that more producers are producing more things, and they are propagating more unusual things for us. So it's just a self-feeding process going on. I mean, our local grocery store has pilea, these little guys with the, I thought I had a close-up of them. That's called pass it on plant because they make little, but they're just flat. They're just strange, flat-looking leaves, and that's a plant that you don't see very often. The bird's nest fern up on the shelf there, right here, is something that I had to order out from Logi's greenhouse back in the day. So we're seeing more plants being made available. Prices are okay, not great, but okay. And the plants that are available are not just the standard things that are there. That orange leaf down there is Acalypha. Oh, going the wrong way. Yeah. See the orange leaf down there? That's copper leaf. That's another one that I had to order out to get. I love copper leaf. It's a little bit hard to grow, but it's a beautiful plant to have in the garden. So a lot of people are buying these things, and it means that I love finding the little starter plants, bringing home a lot of different kinds of plants and letting them grow. And I think that's what's happening. So we asked a friend who we know has gotten hooked and has a lot of plants. Not, I think, the dangerous ones. I wish that they wouldn't get into the dangerous ones because they are. It's just really hard to maintain these things after a while. Talk to Sonia about pulling the cactus quills out of her dog's paw. So it goes all across the board. even the dangerous agaves. That's another one of the things that I think, why would people want to grow that in their house? They take up half the room as they get growing and they're sharp as all get out on the edges.